Anyway, hello everybody. This is the Daily Whatever. I am Lawrence Winterman. It is Fucked Up Friday, and I am super excited that I've got my good friend Füsun Aydin joining us. Obviously, on her secret mission. Dana's on a secret mission. Füsun is currently dressed as a babushka so that she can infiltrate the top levels of Russian high command. Sorry, Füsun. I didn't mean to give it away. And Frederic Poag, the one and only, the man, the mountain, big coffee,
big country, big nasty, big everything,
All right. So we were just talking right before we started. You two, this is the first time that you're meeting on a live together.
First time. And I've been like talking mess to her for like forever,
I know. I know it's on Substack. We can all see the shit that
I know. Well, that's the point, is there has to be a public record, otherwise the smack talk don't count, right? Because you do it in a DM, it's just like, it doesn't matter. That's a punk move. You gotta have the smack talk in live and in public. I don't know how much of that actually translates overseas, because
it translates. Don't worry. It translates.
It's just my thing is, I wonder if she looks at it like, oh, this mother, you know what I mean? So she's just like, I'm waiting to get banned, So like I pulled the trick though, because I think, Füsun, you're still running your deal for your paid subs right now, right?
Correct. Today's the last day.
Yes. Hey, so you hear that, everybody who's joining? We're gonna say it multiple times. Füsun is trying to get to bestseller status. She's right now offering an incredible deal, and if you have not read any of her writings, absolutely worth it. It is some of the best, most personal stuff I've read on Substack. If you're not subscribed, do it now. You won't regret it. You will not regret it. I promise you. So
thank you so much. That's so very nice of you.
And we are going to do that multiple times throughout this show. But
it's a pledge drive. It's the Füsun Aydin pledge drive.
Absolutely, because we got to get more eyeballs on her, man.
I agree. I've long said that Füsun is destined for fame, and if you subscribe to her Substack now, you get to be one of the people that said, I knew her when I subscribed to her Substack before she was famous.
There you go. And you get to be like a hipster like that. You got to be like, well, I was reading her since her first post,
Like, seriously, yeah.
She's doing notes.
Füsun Aydin. Yeah, no, I've read all her work. I was actually reading her on Substack before her first book got published.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 100%. So, so what are we talking about today? Like, what's the game plan? Because I will riff.
Frederic. First, I think it's cute that you think I was letting this get out of control. I was just playing out some line, man. I was just playing out some line.
There you go. Okay.
I know you got 100 words you got to say at first, just so that you can get it out of your system.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that crazy, country boy in me that's just got to like motor mouth through it, Yeah.
And Füsun is observing every nuance of everything that is happening, because if you are reading Füsun and you read her latest article, you know that she is incomparable when it comes to reading body language and determining what the fuck is actually going on right in front of her. So
I'm telling you, she's already plotted like at least 6 ways to kill me with that.
It's all compliment.
Right.
I'm telling you, because I'm thinking she's a former Russian asset, like we're talking about the honeypot, the trap, you know what I mean? If you've seen some of the photos, I mean, that's coming straight out of Moscow. Let's be real. I mean, am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
I think you're making a slanderous statement, Frederic, and I think you should think very carefully about what you're saying.
I knew it, Frederic. I knew I couldn't get you in a room with Füsun and not have you in 2 minutes.
I'll step in it. I'll step in it, man. I will like, if there's a line, I'm crossing it. I'm like Rick James, described by Charlie Murphy. I'm a habitual line stepper. I'll do it. Like it's just on principle.
And
Füsun
is exactly the woman to put you in your place.
I know.
I'll make you walk the line. Don't worry.
Ooh. Well, how come when she says it sounds so sexy?
You'll be Johnny Cash by the time I'm finished with you, I tell you.
Ooh.
I believe it. I believe it, See, that's the secret to all Southern men is like they talk smack, but then they just want they really it's really like a they just want a good woman to keep them in line. That's all what it is. I mean, they'll talk all this and that. It's like, oh, that's my wife calling. I got to go. And then they run home.
So you're saying all Southern men want to be dominated by women. Is that your submission for Fucked Up Friday?
I mean, yeah. And I'm thinking it is. I'm not thinking. I know it is. It just that's why it manifests in weird ways. That's why you get the crazy misogynist. Because secretly, it's part of that culture. They all want to be dominated.
All right,
I'm just gonna say
coffee. I feel like you're about to unspool a classic Frederic speech, which I know you can do. You're gonna pontificate. The soapbox is coming out. You're about to step up on it.
Boom.
This is Fucked Up Friday, and here's what is particularly fucked up is so it's 10 o'clock in the morning in East Coast in the United States.
Yep.
The Supreme Court is releasing decisions right now, like as we are on this call on live, there's a decent chance that the Supreme Court is going to release something that, it becomes the most fucked up thing, like potentially, laying the path to overturning birthright citizenship, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got some crazy stuff to watch out for, but it is Fucked Up Friday, and y'all both know the rules. Füsun, this is your first time on Fucked Up Friday. Frederic, it's like your second or third, I think. No, third or fourth.
Yeah, I've been on a few of them,
Yeah.
So
you know the rules, which is we're each going to present a news story, and you got to sell it to the audience. You got to explain why it's the most fucked up thing of the week.
Okay.
And then once we've each done one, we're going to have the audience vote and see who wins. And I don't know about you guys, but I brought more than one fucked up story because there's enough fucked up shit going on in this world right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And Wendy's here now, so clearly we're ready to play. We were just waiting on Wendy. Wendy, thank you for finally joining us.
Has anybody got a trumpet so we can give some fanfare if she comes in?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like she said trumpet, and all I heard was Trump, and I got triggered just for like half a second.
And
then my brain registered the last part, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I did the same. Kudos to us, Frederic. We're both fast on our feet. Listen, you are the super special guest today. All apologies, Frederic. So it is your prerogative to go first if you would like to go first in presenting your story.
Of course. So my story isn't political in nature. But last Saturday there was a festival in La Rochelle in France. And there was a syringe attack at that festival. This guy was going around poking girls between 14 and 18 with syringes in their thigh. But they arrested the guy. But since that guy has been arrested, there has been a further 145 cases across France of girls being attacked with syringes, like pricked in their thigh. Some of which they found traces of like date rape drugs and ketamine in them. And it all started where somebody put a what do you call it? Notice on Snapchat and on Instagram. It literally encouraging boys to do this at this festival. It was like a call to action for them to go and do it. Yeah, like
honestly, oh my God, I want to die right now hearing this. It is making me so fucking angry and uncomfortable. Like, you could kill somebody with a syringe if you inject a bubble of air into an artery or vein, like you could kill that person. In addition to,
Absolutely.
oh fuck,
That's the thing that fucked me up about it. It's like, it's, yes, obviously the act in itself is like super messed up, and it's super just so fucked. But it's actually like, when you think about it deeper, like, I know this isn't like, it's not about me or anything, but I was a heroin addict for a long time, and I know firsthand how dangerous even the slightest air bubble in a syringe can be, because it can shoot straight to your heart and kill you and
right?
cause blood clots. And it's like, and it's still ongoing. That's the thing. It's gotten so out of hand that multiple, in different cities, like in Paris, in Metz, in Lille, and all of these places, it's still ongoing. They can't get a handle on it because there's so many people doing it. It's insane.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us for Fucked Up Friday. Füsun obviously wins. There can't be a contest to that. I'm voting for her. Jesus fucking Christ, do I hate people right now?
Man, it's things like that that evoke just this a deep seated like rage in me. It's one of those things where, like, if I was out with my family member or my significant other, and I even caught you doing that, or I even thought you did that. I mean, I'm just gonna try everything I can to kill you with my bare hands at that point.
Yeah, Frederic, I'm
But
with you.
I mean, it's just, and the infuriating thing about this to me is like, I'm who the hell are these freaking punks that hate women so damn much? It's like, bro, go collect cans. Go do something other than this, right? Stop. I mean, it's like, I understand where it's like, we got to kill these people for societal hygiene kind of comes into it, right? Even though, like, the objective philosophical side of me is like, no, we can't do that. We got to make sure that could run out of hand.
right.
But then the other
No,
part
that
of me is just
penalty.
like, nah, man, I got a pistol. Let's go to work.
Yeah, but the thing is, right? It's this. It goes into this whole thing, like, of the manosphere and the
Yeah,
Andrew Tate bullshit, like, about, if you cannot talk a woman into sleeping with you and
yeah.
she doesn't say yes to you, then you have permission to do whatever you want to that woman for
Right.
her to give you what you want. That is that's like the underlying principle of all of the manosphere. Is that if you cannot talk to a woman to get her to give you what you want, then you take it by force and by any means necessary. That means if you want to go to a festival and poke 14-year-old girls in the thigh with a needle that contains ketamine, you can go ahead and do that. And it's insane to me how much this shit, like, how popular this kind of ideology, like this misogynistic, like, meninist ideology is. That you can just go and do whatever the fuck you want,
I
and
just
it's crazy.
go. No, you're right. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you didn't. It's okay.
Um, the thing is, I came from. I mean, I really did come from a different era before social media, and while we had misogyny, it was never really like this kind of radicalized indoctrination on the scale.
Right.
And I remember, like, the men who brought me up, even peers and mentors, it was about, what we called back then was learning game, right? And really game, what that meant was just talking to women, right? How to be smooth, how to be witty, like how to be confident, like, and you had some guys that, like, if you were a piece of shit guy, if you, like, oh, you told a girl you loved her to get her to sleep with you, man, you're a punk. Like, it was that kind of stuff. Oh, you lied to her. It was that
Right.
kind of stuff, right? It's like, you ain't got a lot of women, man. You just gotta, be confident and did this and that. And I remember we used to go out, man, this is when I was like rocking it out in my early 20s. And so like I would work, I did outdoor work, and we'd go out at night. Sometimes I was a bouncer in bars, or I got to know people in the scene. So pretty much everywhere I went in East Tennessee, like I drank for free, right? I got in free, drank for free. So I was going out like 5 nights a week, and every night I went out, right? I promise you, there's a point to this. Like every night I went out, I was hitting on women every night. So I was going out like 5 nights a week. And one night I kind of sat around when I was like not having a good night.
Can I just say for everyone in the chat, we all wish we could have been there to watch Big Coffee in action, Big Country making its moves.
It was pretty much
Everyone
like
right
it
now
is.
is wishing like, oh man, I wish I could have seen that.
It was pretty much like it is now, except way less smooth,
I just need this.
And
pillow
I'm not
for a
saying it's
second.
smooth. It's yeah, there you go. But Bushka's guy is like, okay, she's just, but like, but I totaled it up, and I'm like, damn, as many L's as I take, if I was on a Major League Baseball team, I would be cut. I mean, I took L's all the time, and it was just you rolled with it, right? And you realized it was just like, oh, she's not feeling me, or I messed that up, or this and that. Like, it wasn't a big deal, And
right. At no point did you think like, I'm gonna go inject her with date rape drugs.
No, man, because it's just like, oh, she don't want to talk to me. Oh, there's another one. It's like, oh, she don't want to talk. Oh, there's another one. And I mean, so I don't understand these guys, that like they get indoctrinated online, and they convince themselves, that, oh, no, none of these women want me. It's like, bro, you're not even trying. You're not even going out, and you're not even talking to women. It's like,
That's what yeah, like sorry to cut you off, but that's
no, you're
like
good.
that's like incels, right? Like
Yeah.
incels, they don't leave their house. They expect things to come to them, and when things don't come to them, they get ragey about it, and suddenly everything is somebody else's fault other than their own. Like, it's like, do you think, like, for me, it's like the boys who did this, the one that they captured was, I think, only like 18 or 19. He was still quite young, right? And it's like,
Did he
sorry,
say
go ahead.
anything about what he was? Did he say he did it because of the social media thing?
No, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did say that, but like he said, like it's just this, like, my point is it's this like this really dangerous, like, aggression that's filling up young men because they've been told
Yeah.
that the reason they're not getting where they want in life is because of women. And for fuck's sake, you're like 18, man. Like, you're 18.
Right.
You're not gonna be married with kids and own your own house and fuck everybody that you can, because you're 18 and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And
Right,
sorry
right.
for being patronizing.
You haven't
but
scored
it's
any
true.
wins because you're a child. Jesus.
Even when I was coming up, right? It's like between 18 to 21, I would hit on girls, or women my own age. Rarely get them, right? And the old heads told me, is like, hey man, these women, they go for older men. It is what it is. It's a maturity thing. It's this and that. That's bullshit. It's like, yo, youngin', your time will come. Put in the work, do this, work on yourself, be all right. And yeah, that's kind of how it rolled, And so, but eventually, it's the thing is like, not much has changed on that front. But the weakest thing I see with men today, you blame, like, how the hell are you gonna call yourself, I want to be alpha, I want to be this, I want to be that, and then all you do is blame women for your problems?
For real. Yeah,
Come on, man.
the whole
The
alpha
pussy
thing.
That's the
thing.
weakest thing you could do. It's like, women are weak. They need to be this. This is like, all you do is complain about women, bro. Instead of going out there and getting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what the old heads would have told me when I was coming up. And it's not that they ever did in that context, but it was just like, man, don't worry about. I mean, it's like, might be an example of like, oh, she likes this and she don't like me. It's like, bro, don't worry about her. She gonna do what she wants to do. You know,
Yeah.
you need to be worried about what you're doing. You know, it's like, are you working? You know, are you trying to get some money? Are you trying to make yourself better? Are you getting educated? That's all these fools are like, I'm gonna go to the gym and take trend. Okay, that ain't gonna make you smarter. That ain't gonna give you the skill sets to, you know, get in there and start a business or get, you know, get
Socially acceptable, or
yeah, to be husband material, to get the things that you want. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
All right, Big Coffee, you're on a roll. You're on a roll, man. I think you should use that.
this made me furious, dude. This makes me
Yeah.
furious, man. I'm just picturing these young women who they ain't done nothing to nobody. They're too young of them. I mean, but other than be some mean girls in school, they ain't done nothing to nobody.
Yeah.
And potentially putting their lives or health in danger. You don't know what kind of dirty stuff's in them needles, man. And it's like,
Agreed.
if it was a woman I knew, like I'm beating you until three people pull me off.
But that's it. It's like if one needle, like who goes to say that they're not using the same fucking needle on multiple different people? That's so fucking dangerous. It's unreal, you know?
Yeah. Oh, Frederic, Wendy's got her eye on you. She wants.
I got you, girl. Yeah. I'm free tonight. Let's get it done.
Nice.
You know.
All right. Damn,
You know.
I'm gonna be on a plane for that. But oh well. Frederic, it's your turn, man. Pitch your pitch. I would say here's one of the things I love about you, man. It's clear that if you had kids, if you had daughters, you would protect them to the nth degree. And you are the kind of guy who can extrapolate that feeling out to all kids, right? All women, all people who are, disadvantaged and want to protect them. And that fierce compassion is part of the reason that I think people find you so compelling, which PS they do. And I'm with you, right? Like if we were near someone where that was happening, I would gladly beat the fucker who did it to a pulp with our bare hands.
That's what I love about you, bro. And it's like, and I apologize, Füsun. Did I get it right?
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But this is what I hate. And I appreciate those compliments. I always do, man. But this is supposed to be the baseline for men. I'm not supposed to be the exception. This is supposed to be the baseline.
Right. Not running around and injecting people with needles is.
All these fools want to talk about alpha male stuff, and they want to talk about, well, men are supposed to be the protectors. Well, then why ain't you protecting women, fool?
Right.
Huh? Why are you trying to oppress them? Why are you trying to beat them down? Why are you trying to, man, come on, man. You know, that my old Southerner is like, I used to have an old head that taught me, he says, oh, he did that? Oh, we'll go witness to him. You know, we witness. And what that means, Füsun, is so in old Southern culture, part of Christianity is you prophesize, so you witness your story, right? You know, it's like you would give a testimonial. But when we were talking about witnessing, that was our kind of witnessing. We're gonna witness to that. We're gonna witness to them. We're gonna, they're gonna learn the hard way. You know, like, but so my messed up story is, I had a few. I'm gonna stick with this theme. I'm gonna do more political. I'm gonna give the win to Füsun just because I'm still furious about this. I can't get this furious and win. So
I have a terrible habit of making people furious. Don't worry about it.
That's okay. You know,
a delicious and terrible habit of making people furious.
I'm a native,
and then
I'm
writing about it and making us all witness her brilliance. Yes.
Exactly. I'm a native born Texan, so I love abrasive women. So, that's fine with me. You ain't abrasive though. You're very calm and demure. So no, I'm trying to remember the rep's name. The chat can probably help me out and put it up. It's the woman that had the ectopic pregnancy. She's a rep in Florida, right? And you see this a lot from that side of the fence. There's stories of, so she had an ectopic pregnancy. I won't bury the lead. She had to have emergency surgery for that. And of course, it got held up because of all the legislation, this and that. Now, she probably got a much quicker return because she's in the Republican Party and in that state, then God knows how many poor women have gone through that. And we never heard about, because Ron DeSantis buries those statistics in Florida. But so what was her move? She came out and blamed Democrats,
Blame
and
Democrats. Classic move.
right. At the same time, I'll make it a twofer. SCOTUS just said, oh, it's okay for the federal government to defund Planned Parenthood.
Right.
So the thing is, you see this all the time. Like you can go online, like you could, and Reddit and other stuff where they talk about abortion providers, like the nurses or people that work in those clinics, that provide those services. And you get these, the right-wing women that come in, and as they're being given this service, they're shouting at people saying they're going to go to hell, that, they're, but they're going to be fine and all this other stuff. Right. And it's this height of hypocrisy that I hate with this kind of stuff. It is that kind of, because you have in Georgia the case of the woman that was basically brain dead in an incubator.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to everything we're talking about. Is like, what the hell, man? When are we going to stop trying to hurt and kill our women? When? Like, it's got to be enough at some point, man. Like I don't know the answer on how to do that other than just speaking up. But I mean, come on, man. Somebody's got to, like Andrew Tate. These fools have to be held accountable. Republican Party, they have to be held accountable for this crap.
Yep.
No, I think that's the only way at this point.
Well, Andrew Tate is being held accountable. He's in court. I think it was either this week or next week on rape charges and assault charges and kidnapping charges. I think in the UK.
Good.
So he's getting his just desserts, I think.
Good.
So.
Yeah. I just want to point out in the chat, me and Wendy and Craig were in a race to see who could be top of the news. I won. P.S. Supreme Court just ruled that nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional, which means that they're on the path towards, it's the birthright citizenship case. So they're on the path towards being able to limit birthright citizenship. And it means that we're basically going to have different rules in every state, because if there are no nationwide injunctions, there are going to be state and regional differences in terms of who's a citizen or really anything that you can do. So,
they're
yeah,
dismantling you slowly. That's what they're doing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Füsun, you're exactly right. The United States is slowly and systematically, or maybe not slowly, but systematically being dismantled, and we're watching it right in front of our very fucking eyes.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love these fools that vote for this crap where it's just like, okay, I guess your rights ain't worth a damn, are they?
Right. No, they're not. Clearly, the rights that they were born with aren't worth a fucking thing, because
your precious Second Amendment, your right to right to free speech,
right,
right to vote, all that don't mean nothing. If one state can outlaw it, then okay, it don't mean nothing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep. Lisa's saying they played the long game. They did. The conservative movement has for 40, 45 plus years been working towards this, what we're experiencing right now, and the dismantling of the United States and the imposition of a, corporatist theocracy. And this is a step. This is a big, big fucking step.
Who's to say, though? Who's to say? Once they've done that with people who are either first generation or second generation citizens, that they won't start doing it to people who have been there for longer. Like,
absolutely.
Like American, like citizens, like whose parents are American, whose parents are American.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: if these ICE fuckers, ICE, the guys that don't have badges, the guys that wear masks, if they roll around and wrestle you into their truck and put you in a detention center and you don't have due process, how are you ever going to prove that you're an American citizen?
Exactly.
Right.
If you're walking around with your fucking passport and they roll up on you and you pull out your passport and say, no, really, look, I am a U.S. citizen, they'll just fucking take it and throw it away. We're not safe. This is
we're not. Well, there's a reason the innocent until proven guilty is put into into our Constitution.
Absolutely.
Because back when where they were, the founding fathers and all the folks came from in Europe, they had basically you had a church court, and you had basically the secular court, and part of the church court was the Inquisition being the most extreme example, is you were guilty until you were proven innocent. You had to prove you were innocent.
Sure.
And if you didn't get enough evidence, or there just wasn't enough, or people wouldn't speak on your behalf, you were guilty. There was no reasonable doubt.
Look at all those witches.
Yeah.
They were guilty until proven innocent, with their dead, drowned body.
And it's funny, a buddy of mine went to Salem, and we were talking about it. That incident, what was that all about? It was a land grab. That's what it was. So the guys who did it and burning all these witches were like, hey, under, English law, what we'll get is, we can get their land, right? Because if you go to court, and even if you don't, you say not, basically you go to court and you're found guilty, right? They could take your land. That was the Puritan law that they set up. It's funny, the guy who broke them, because they accused his wife of witchcraft, right? He was, him. Sorry. So one of the guys that broke him, he left Massachusetts. He comes back, and he was a businessman. He was a ship trader. All his stores, his warehouses, everything gone. They had taken it, right? When he was in absentia. And he said, oh no, that's not how this works. He was a lawyer in England. So he's like, that's not how English common law works, which you guys have to go by because you're part of the crown. So this guy spent 20 years suing them into oblivion and eventually broke it up. And all the land that they got, from the witches, right? He eventually got it back, or he got it, and then put a big Anglican church on it as a FU to the Puritans. Right in the middle of Salem. It was all this primo land. He's like, boom.
And let's be honest, the other thing that the Salem all the witch burning was about is fucking misogyny, right?
Of course.
Because they weren't witch trials, they were women trials.
Of course.
No offense to anyone on here who considers themselves a witch, but witches aren't real, right? The pointy hat, fly on a broomstick, shoot green sparks out from your fingers. Not real. So it was women. It was persecuting women.
and part of that was wrapped up in, too, is that it was a mass hysteria. There was like in the previous years there was a plague, and then they'd had 3 years of famine, and then they had a bunch of Native Americans that attacked them. So they'd gone through it for about 5 years. So then they started doing this, and so part of the historical context with this is we went through a pandemic, and that's why we're seeing this crap.
I was just going to say, hey, man, I sympathize. We went through a pandemic, and so now we're tearing the entire country apart. Come on.
And it's like, well, we didn't mean this. It's like, we didn't mean, what'd you mean? You let these fools off the hook, off the leash, and now we're dealing with this. So
it's the same. It's the same throughout history, though. You see these little panics, like witchcraft, and then in the 80s it was the satanic panic,
right?
And just it's just constant. It's nonsense, though. All of it is nonsense.
Oh, 100%.
It sometimes amazes me to realize that you're not American because you know so much about, and I'm guessing it's because our culture is just piped out into the rest of the world, and y'all can't avoid hearing about America and all the bullshit that happens here, because we're the center of attention and pump our garbage out to the world. But yeah, it's incredible that you know about that.
That's why I said yesterday, I look forward to the day where America isn't front and center in every newspaper I pick up, so I can learn about something else.
Me too.
Same.
Right. You've got
Same.
Americans who, are wishing the same thing. Beth is saying that she's a witch. Beth, I love witches. I love modern witchcraft. I just mean, and I think we're agreeing, it was all about control, and it was all about keeping women down. And to Frederick's point, there's a piece of it about, ownership and property rights. But yeah, please, no offense to anybody who considers themselves, because I do too, consider myself of a more witchy bent than anything else. Oh shit. All right, I'm back. I got a pop-up message and I was trying to dismiss it and I went into it instead. Fucking TikTok. All right, let me do mine.
Yeah.
Because I think I've got a contender here.
Okay.
In a report released this week, the United Nations says has documented massive, grave violations against children in armed conflict, especially in Gaza and the West Bank,
Of course.
where Israeli soldiers are consistently killing, maiming, and using sexual violence like rape and genital mutilation against children as a means of oppressing the population. So you've heard me get on my rant before. I think people know I'm an American Jew. I fucking despise Netanyahu, somebody that I would absolutely go witness in a fucking heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
And Israel has become the thing that we hated. Like, Israel has become, under Netanyahu, actual fucking Nazis, which, I wouldn't have ever believed I would live to see it, but here we are. The fact that you've got IDF soldiers who are raping and mutilating children of both genders to wage a war of terror, war of genocide against an entire population. This is another thing that gets me into that rage state, Frederick, where I just want to go rip some motherfuckers limb from limb, because how fucking disgusting. And yeah, I will stop because I feel like I could go on for a long time about this. So UN report just came out this week, kind of documenting and confirming it. Like, they can't fucking hide behind the atrocities that they're committing. And I'm going to say Den Haag is going to be a very busy place when all of this is said and done, between Israel and Putin and Ukraine and Trump here. I hope we are prosecuting motherfuckers in The Hague for years, so that we can teach a lesson to everyone.
Thing is, it does take a while, because I don't know if you remember the Serbian war criminals during the Yugoslav wars. It took them forever to get them into Den Haag.
Yeah.
With I think it took some of them 20 years to get them to go to trial. Some of them were dead before they even got to trial. So I hope they're much quicker in their response with Israel. I hope so. I hope that Netanyahu doesn't die before he sees justice.
Right. Exactly. Same with Trump, right? Same with Putin. There's a piece of me that really needs to see those fuckers strung up and bleeding out their last fucking bits of life as we piss on their fucking writhing bodies. Forgive me for being graphic, but I want them to know that they are fucking reviled and that they are the worst of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It'll probably the thing with say Trump and Netanyahu, if just actuarial tables and historical precedent, they probably will die before they see the inside of a courtroom. However, the silver lining you can take from potentially the EU rising in political power, geopolitical power, and Canada, and the U.S. sort of falling off its, basically sunsetting, is you are going to this whole forgive and forget crap that inevitably the powers that be in the elite will try to push on us. That's not going to fly if they start traveling abroad, because they're not that invisible umbrella that they've all, been under with America. America. That's gonna go. And so it's like, ooh, I can't travel abroad because if I get to, France, who's, hot, hot, hot to get MAGAs, people like Stephen Miller, because again, the same stuff, like there's heinous stuff starting to come out of these ICE detention centers. What was it like? The pregnant woman lost her baby and then she was eating like food with cockroaches in it, and again, it's these ICE agents. They're not agents. They're bounty hunters.
Right.
They're not. That's all it is. I mean, because you don't have paperwork. They're not. What they're doing is not under the color of law. That will come out.
Right.
And then we'll have the reports, of the ICE detention facilities, because again, they're not letting anybody in there.
Right. Well,
if you're doing things under the color of law and everything's above board, why are you not letting them in there? Right?
You've all probably seen it. It was kind of wildfire this week. The video of the woman who basically pushed off an ICE raid because she just stood there with her video camera, her phone, and videoed everything and demanded to see their badges. And she just relentlessly, you can kind of tell from her voice, she sounds like she's an older woman, maybe Latina. And, her English is good, but it's not perfect, and I just, in my mind, I see this, petite old lady standing there with her camera basically saying, no kidnapping. This is kidnapping. Show me your badge. And she just said that over and over again. And they eventually left. And when she tried to get the video to take a picture of their license plate, they freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
It makes me think that these fuckers don't know the Constitution at all, because under the Fourth Amendment, if you're driving around in a vehicle that has public license plates on it, which are literally for identification purposes, and you think that people can't take a fucking video or a picture of your license plate, you do not understand the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of this country.
Because here's the thing with all this, right? And this is why the Trump administration is doing this. You saw the same stuff with the slave catchers, right? Back in the 1850s, when they would just go up north, with the Fugitive Slave Act, and they just grab any black folks they could get their hands on, because you're basically selling the color of the flesh. That's what's happening, right? So they're popping up in basically Hispanic neighborhoods, and they're poaching anybody that's Hispanic, grabbing them, and then getting a bounty for them, right? And then ICE is kind of sorting it out. But here's the problem with all that, besides it being illegal and immoral and unethical and horrible, is they don't have the manpower to do that, so it's slow. So even with logistics of feeding them and housing them and processing, because Doge cut all those people, because you've got multiple fascists working on different things, you don't have the people to process them. So it's like, so instead of like you're not getting a warrant for somebody's like, hey, this is a dangerous criminal, like you're supposed to be in law enforcement, go out and get them. We think they're there, because that requires actual work, right? Yeah. It's just like, we're paying $2,000 for every Hispanic guy you can bring in.
Right. No, it's literal bounty hunting. It's because Stephen Miller said you got to go get 3,000 people a day. And ICE is out of money. And so they had to hire fucking bounty hunters who are clearly not operating within the means of the law. All right. We got 15 minutes left in this show. Frederic, Füsun, I don't know if we've decided yet. Are we just rolling long into
just roll on. It's just easier.
So Frederic, you might get rooked into dirty talk with Füsun and Lawrence, which is coming up at the top of the hour, and the topic is sex work. So you could stick around and you could contribute. We also
I've never done sex work, like.
No, he is sexy and he is a piece of work.
There you go. See, I knew there was a way we could cajole him in.
There we go.
I don't know that we need a vote, but let's do it anyway, just for fun. Everyone in the chat, please, if you are voting for Füsun's story, which is so fucking outrageous that it made us all want to go murder people, the injection, the attack on young women with needles in France that is spreading apparently through incel fuckery, please put Füsun in the chat. If you can't grab the umlaut for her name, that's okay.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Don't worry about it. If you're voting for Frederick's, which, man, I'm sorry. What the fuck was yours, Frederick?
Mine was the ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, yeah. The
it's
Florida
hard.
legislator who is
Don't vote.
a total.
No, man, I'm the weakest of the three. Like I'm just gonna tell you now. Like,
Yep. And if you're voting for mine, which is the fucking IDF committing atrocities and war crimes in Gaza and the West Bank, vote for me. Robin is saying, I'm not sure your recap is journalistically unbiased. It's not. I'm not trying to be a journalist here. My vote is for Füsun. Frederick, what about you?
Füsun, yeah, 100%. I mean, I want to get to a spot where, in the world, in the country, my dream is where we get to messed up Friday is like, hey, we got a Karen in the mall. Like that's the most messed up thing in the world, It's like,
listen, it's practically unanimous. 1 minute daily boost. God bless you. You voted for me, but it's Füsun. So congratulations on having the most fucked up news story of the week.
Thank you.
Speech. How do you feel?
I feel honored to be stood here at the White House. The place that made it all happen, the fucked up Fridays, and
Right.
I feel
Right.
and to be in good company with fellow followers of fucked up news, and
yeah.
Thank you all.
Yes, I gotta say it's an impressive showing. Your first time on Fucked Up Friday and a win right out of the gate.
Right out the gate, yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
I will obviously have both of you back for Fucked Up Fridays in the future. Yeah. So what the actual fuck?
I'm waiting on, because Trump is failing so badly. I mean, he's gonna. I'm waiting for him to follow us at some point and be like, I should have totally won Fucked Up Friday. Shouldn't have gotten it.
Right.
It should be me.
I did at least 3 fucked up things this week.
It's like, and then we could be like, all right, bro, if you retire, we'll give it to you. If that's what it takes. Otherwise.
Go ahead, Tristan.
No, like if you retire and stop every single fucking thing you're doing, including breathing, I will give you that award.
Right. Right. Yeah. I just want to pause for a moment and point out how, like, the meta fucked up that is going on here, like the meta fucked up story is, so last week we were talking about the attack on Iran and bombing Iran illegally, and the fact that Democratic lawmakers had been assassinated, and all that shit is like, I mean, Iran's not out of the headlines now, but like, there's so much fucked up shit that's just happening day after day that we're drowning in it. We're drowning in piles of fucked up shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of flood the zone strategy, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really get a handle on anything. And that's kind of why, this typical Democratic move where Al Green put forth articles of impeachment and, 128 Democrats, like, and I was just like, I got zero fucks for establishment Dems at this point.
Yeah.
Because that is another absolute failure. And I got a bunch of comments that were, it's like, well, here's the strategy. It's like, oh, I understand the strategy, but the problem is there's going to be by the time you get to where we can bring it back, there's going to be 100 other more fucked up things that come. True. And it's not even going to be a story anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, it's like, hey, remember like when, Abrigo got, his due process rights violated?
Right. No, that was 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's like, and so the thing is, how you combat this stuff is you have to come out. How it stops is you pick this one thing and you come out and you hit them repeatedly over and over and over, and you keep drawing attention to it, because when they're trying to distract you with all the other things, you just know, no, we're focusing on this, bam. Well, what about this? No, we're focusing on this, bam. And you keep, and it brings everything back. And that's the only way you can do it. And the reason establishment Dems don't want to do that is because they benefit from this crap, because they know, oh, we're not going to we'll be cool. If we just keep our heads, they follow the James Carville strategy. We just keep our heads down. They're going to be so much Republicans, and they're going to vote for us.
I keep seeing James Carville platformed on the news, and like, fuck that guy. He does not understand modern politics.
He's old. I mean, and I'm not
he's
saying that as an ableist slam.
no.
Dude, your ideas are not meant for this era.
His ideas are not fresh. Right.
You know, it's you got Bill Clinton elected when Arsenio Hall was still on the air and he was playing the saxophone.
Right.
Right? When magazines were still a thing. Newsstands and magazines were still a thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's done. That's gone. That doesn't. If Mamdani's win in the New York primary taught us anything, it's that, oh, if you actually understand social media and you get the engagement, all this old money, because it's become just this grift, it doesn't work. And that's what's got them scared, man. That's what's scaring the hell.
I want to interrupt you for a second, Frederic. Füsun, you're so steeped in American politics. And I'm sorry that we are continuing to rant about American politics.
No, it's quite all right. It's fine.
But so Mamdani, winning the New York Democratic primary, I'd love to hear what you think about that. Like, as a Muslim, as somebody who's outside of the United States, what is your perspective? And I mean, I know you're not devout, but still, kind of the idea of having a Muslim in high office in New York. What does that look like to you?
I was going to ask you, is Mamdani Iranian heritage?
No, I think Pakistani on his mom's side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's more extraordinary to have a democratic socialist in New York City, where Wall Street is and the center of capital, that runs the world. I think that's extraordinary even in itself to have him there. I personally think it would be I think it would be very difficult for him, because once MAGA click onto him that he could be the first of many that pop up around the United States, I think they will zero in on him. And they will do anything that they can to discredit him. You'll see it. You'll see it. I worry for him because you've had assassinations in Minnesota, right? This is a Muslim who's in high office. This is a person who represents a demographic that Trump has demonized. Trump it will come out soon. Trump will start asking for his birth certificate or something ridiculous like that. Or Stephen Miller will do something, or tell Trump to do something and to discredit him, and they'll rile up his followers. And I feel personally that he could be in quite a bit of danger,
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Like, for real. Like, I think that for the MAGA hardliners, the ones that go and shoot people who work in I don't know what the term is in America, but that woman in Minnesota, people who can make a list of people to exterminate.
Right.
Yeah, he'll be on the top of that list.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, I completely agree. And what happened in Minnesota last week and the levels of rhetoric that we're seeing, I know that everyone senses this, but we're entering an era where political assassination, I mean, the targeting of political figures for murder, assassination, this is going to happen. Like, there's a piece of me that is bracing, right? Like, is it AOC? Is it Pete? Who is the person that we are going to lose? Like, who is the bright light? Who is the person that we are going to lose because some fucking MAGA Second Amendment idiot asshole is going to lone wolf their way into killing somebody? And I hate living that way and thinking that way, because it's like the other shoe is going to drop at any fucking moment. But I feel like we're like, this is, late 60s, this is like losing RFK and, and MLK. Like, the idea that people are going to get murdered because of politics in the United States is making me absolutely like sick. Like, it makes my stomach twist up in knots.
That's it. And I think I personally think that because he fits that demographic of being not only the child of an immigrant, but a Muslim, I think that he's to those maniacs, he'll be right up the top of their list, and just because, and it's straight out of the National Socialist playbook,
Yeah.
right? It's it's behind the scenes, sanctioned political assassination.
Mhm.
But outside it, like the Reichstag, like they burnt down the Reichstag, but they blamed the communists for it.
Right.
They can do all of these things to close in on power and elongate their power.
Yeah.
And I don't think MAGA has the conscience to stop a political assassination. And that's all. Like I think they'll be very quiet publicly, but behind the scenes they'll be chomping at the bit to have people like AOC and even Bernie Sanders, for fuck's sake. They'd love to see
Oh
him
yeah.
out of the way,
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's 100%. Yeah, sorry.
no, it's okay.
Yeah. No, it's that that's part of their playbook. Like, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial. Is they're absolutely fine with it. They're counting on it.
Right.
Because they think that the thing about extreme. And here's the thing. Somebody mentioned, like, I know you mentioned National Socialists, and people said, "Oh, it's 1930s Germany." No, actually, this has been part of our history. Like, violence as political solutions has been with us since we were formed in violence. In the American Revolution, and you like this is why we study CRT and all this other stuff. The Nazis got their ideas from concentration camps from us and the American,
Right.
the Native American reservations. Like the Black Codes and all. Like, you look at the terror that happened. Basically, that's what it was in the South, in basically post Reconstruction ending, all the way up until civil rights, which was the lynchings, especially from like when the Ku Klux Klan was in a heyday in the early part of the 20th century. So like 1900 from about 1920, like in the mid 20s, thousands of Black people were lynched in broad daylight to crowd mobs.
Yeah.
Like people took their kids to it.
Yeah.
People
Like it was
their
a
flushes.
festival. It was
Postcards and
yeah.
like
So
it's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Robert. No, don't apologize at all. No, I'm sorry. Robin said, I don't think they even see Bernie as a threat. Right now they don't. But when people who are more aligned to his views start popping up around the United States and getting into positions of power, then they'll start seeing Bernie as a threat. Like it'll be not right now while he's standing essentially alone. He's not a threat. But when people who subscribe to his ideology, start getting into politics and start trying to make changes, then they'll start seeing him as a threat because they'll see him as like in democratic socialism in the United States, Bernie Sanders is a symbol of that. Like if you ask anybody outside of America who's the most famous democratic socialist in the United States, Bernie Sanders will 9 times out of 10 be the answer.
Right.
So I think
Absolutely.
in the long run he could be a threat, to MAGA.
Yeah. Although in the long run with Bernie, I mean, let's face it again, going to actuarial tables, probably not that long, like,
No.
yeah.
But
Go ahead,
what
Frederic.
you could draw, before we get into dirty talk, you could draw a line from Bernie to Mamdani, right? You could draw the line there because now you have a labeled democratic socialist who is in charge of the arguably one of the most important cities in the U.S. that has a more population than most, like a majority of states in the U.S.
Right.
Right. It would be like it'd be this. The only higher step for that is somebody is a democratic socialist gets elected in California, which is now on the table. Right.
Yep.
Because you've opened that door. That's what's scaring the absolute shit out of them right now.
Right. And I loved your post the other day, Frederic, where you're like, showed Mamdani's platform and you were like, yeah, I'm on board. Like, it's like the building grocery stores in the food deserts inside New York City, right? And giving mothers the kit that originated in Norway or Finland or Scandinavia somewhere that like helps improve health outcomes for mother and baby, for newborn baby. Like, none of these things are radical. These are
No.
things that, like, I think any feeling person would be like, oh yeah, new moms should have a kit that helps them, nurse their baby and do whatever for the first couple of weeks. And yeah, you should be able to buy fresh produce in whatever neighborhood you live in New York City. Like, these things are not radical. The thing that's radical is what the Republicans are doing to our country, right?
The only reason rural people in the middle of nowhere actually get mail is because it's in the Constitution and taxpayers fit the bill for that. Because private interests, there's no money there. FedEx is not going there, right? Unless it's subsidized by taxpayers. And so the thing is, they've determined too, like, oh, well, we can't go into those neighborhoods. There's not enough money for us to put a Whole Foods or put a Kroger or put that there. So we can't, it's too expensive to truck in fresh produce, right? But, okay, but people deserve to have, good food to eat. Oh, that sounds socialist. Okay, then I'm a socialist. But I got that from the Bible. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Right. All right, we should probably transition here to our other show.
Yes,
Dirty
especially
Talk
since
with
we
Füsun
talked
and
about
Lauren.
the Bible.
Speaking of the Bible, a perfect note to go out on. Füsun, are we ready to go? Are we ready to do Dirty Talk?
I am, yes.
Excellent.
Perfectly.
So, all right. One little note. I just want to apologize to all witches when I got on my rant. I was just trying to make a point that, the Wizard of Oz, Wicked Witch of the West, that, we all think about that during Salem witch trials. That's not what they're going after. They were going after women who were herbalists and midwives and whatnot. So if you're a witch and you were offended by what I said, I'm truly sorry.
You're going to get turned into a cat if you're not too careful.
I mean, hey, there's worse lives. These fuckers back here sleeping on a heated pad and eating 3 squares a day. Like, I'll take it. All right, Füsun. Our topic today, sex work and queerness.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That perfect, Frederic. That little, what the fuck am I doing here? You did it. You nailed it, man. You got it.
He looks like he's just accidentally strolled into a nudist camp.
Right. What's going on here?
It's like, is it? I feel like I'm Forrest Gump coming in. Sorry to spoil your Black Panther party.
Yeah. So we're gonna need you to sign an NDA, Frederic, because there's some organizing bits at the end with action items and hit lists. So
I every time y'all get on Dirty, I like this. The Dirty Talks I've listened or jumped in for when I had time. I always feel like, damn, the so much I just don't know, and I've never experienced. Like, I feel like a Mormon that's just like, it's like they do that.
Yeah.
That defies gravity.
I'm like, huh, all right. I was like, I guess you would do that. That makes sense. Yeah. Like I was like, I remember I was talking with this gay dude, and he's from New York, right? And we were just chatting.
All right, I'm cutting you off, Frederic. Füsun is going to introduce the topic.
Oh, she's going to tell. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Don't hear my story.
I got to keep some kind of control over this here thing.
Fine.
Yeah. So like the topic is about sex work and I guess how queerness fits into that and how the two are quite closely linked for a number of reasons, mostly economical. But like, I think there is a rich tradition of sex work in the queer community that goes back a long time. And I think it's hugely underrepresented in media, and I think it's I think you only really see like the classic so-called like rent boy, who like is hanging around on the street corners when it's so much more um diverse than that, and there's so much more to it than just like being a teenage runaway in New York City and, pardon my French, but sucking like old men off in toilets. Like it's a
Mm.
lot more um it's a lot more important, it's a lot more historical, it's a lot more yeah, that's what I'd like to talk about.
So, Fusen, your most recent article, I'm trying to pull it up so I can drop the link in. But it is such an unvarnished look at kind of the day to day of your work as a sex worker, but also the ways in which you're protected because of the virtues of the place that you're at. In Amsterdam, the fact that sex work is legal and protected there, and it's an interesting juxtaposition, right? Like the story of you getting kicked out at 15 and basically realizing that the only way that you could survive was through sex work because you weren't allowed to do anything else.
Mm.
To this place now where you're in Amsterdam, or you're able to go to Amsterdam and work and have a protected environment. And I would love it if over the course of this hour we could kind of talk about that journey of yours, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the point you just made about like rent boys in New York City, right? Kids who get kicked out of their houses and basically have to, suck dicks down at the docks or something. Like that is a real piece. Like that's literally how lots of people enter sex work, because
Yeah.
queer kids are, you know, expelled by their families and put in a position where they literally have no other skills and no other way to live.
Yeah, like I mean I think for the greatest proportion of say sex workers who aren't glam sex workers, that is anybody who isn't on who is exclusively only on OnlyFans and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different trajectory. There's people who do that for different reasons. Mostly it's still economical, like, but it's mostly still financial. But like, I think for most of us who do physical, face-to-face, client-based sex work, a lot of us have started out because it's been born from necessity, and we have, in a sense, been coerced by financial hardships to make these decisions, you know? So yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. What was the specific question you were asking, Lawrence?
Oh, well, I just wanted to kind of connect the dots and say, um, we've read your story of coming out to your family and how your mother reacted so badly, how you got kicked out, and have said explicitly like you had to do sex work. There wasn't anything else you could do as a 15-year-old trans girl that was employable in the part of Istanbul that you were in, right?
Mm.
And so there's I think there's a piece of me that's really curious about that journey from what felt like a forced decision that you had to do to stay alive to being at a place now where you you have protections, you have health care, you have mental health care. I guess maybe the question is like at some point I'd love to hear the unpacking of how would your 15-year-old self feel about the level of freedom and autonomy and protection that you have now.
Very grateful, like incredibly grateful, and actually shocked, I think, like, because like the protections I have here in Amsterdam, none of that exists at all. In Turkey, sex work is legal in Turkey, right? Brothels exist in Turkey, but they're state run. brothels. The state runs those brothels.
Mm.
And the thing is the trans women can't work in those brothels. Like they're excluded for working in those brothels. So you can only do street work, which means you are vulnerable, one, to pimps and trafficking. It's a huge issue. And two, you don't have health protections. You're vulnerable to disease because you can't really access condoms. Like you don't get sexual health like clinics. Really that are feasible. You get kind of these backstreet kind of organizations that give you materials that are not necessarily the materials that you need and are substandard. And um so as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, like to have even known Amsterdam had this kind of dynamic happening, which I didn't know at the time. Would have been a dream, and I would have gone a lot sooner had I had known, but I didn't know. And so I mean, hindsight is like 2020, right? Like, so you can look back on things and think, well, maybe I should have done this and I should have done a bit more research and I should have known and I should have asked around. But at the time, I just accepted it for what it was, as something that is like something that I had to do, and that like there are ways that I can keep myself safe, but nothing's ever 100%. And in a sense, I'm glad I did it, because if I'd never done those things, I would be probably a shade of the person that I am today. Like, like I saw it as, learning. It sounds really sadistic, but I see it as something as learning through suffering. An evolution through suffering.
Yeah. I mean, the Buddhist in me would say that's what life is, right? Learning through suffering. Your path, I think, was particularly challenging as a young trans girl, having to do that suffering through, I think what you described it as, like, economically forced sex work, right? Like, you weren't forced to do it by another person, but your economic circumstances basically made it so that you had no other choice.
Trafficked by capitalism. That's what it was.
I mean, really, it is, right? It's trafficked by capitalism because there's literally no other option and there's no social safety net in any way.
No.
That's it. It's like, and so like, I don't think anybody really I don't think I realized how bad it was until I left. Like when I left, and like I said, hindsight is 2020. When I left, I realized actually that's literal is literally the most dangerous thing I've ever done in my life, and how dangerous it was when I was put into a scenario where actually, like, there's unions, there's healthcare, there's mental health support, there's security, you're in charge of how you work, when you work, how much you charge, all of these things you're in charge of. When I had that autonomy and that control over my work, I realized that Istanbul is, for lack of a better word, a cesspit, and is the environment there, not the city itself, the environment I'm talking about, sex work, is just so dangerous, so unbelievably dangerous. Like, you're getting into somebody's car, you don't know this person,
right?
You don't know what they're like, and you don't know what more importantly, you don't know what they're pretending to be. Right. So you're getting into their car and they're driving you 10, 15 miles out of Istanbul because, one, they don't want anybody to see that you're there with you. And two, is to have you alone. And you don't know what they're going to fucking do to you, man. Like, like I had my best friend, somebody took her out of the city, and without getting too graphic, they dismembered her and they found her parts of her in 4 different places outside of Istanbul.
Jesus.
And the police were like, oh, we've investigated. What do you want us to do about it? We can't find the person that did it. What do you want us to do about it? And so if that had been someone who wasn't a sex worker, who wasn't trans, they would have been on out like white on rice, man. They would have arrested that person probably within the month, and like it's so the difference is that I have now like instead of being seen as an undesirable, I'm seen as a worker. That's the big difference, right? Is that I'm seen as a worker and as a contributor towards society instead of as someone who is a leech and a drain.
Right.
That's.
I love your perspective and that you articulate repeatedly about how this is a public good, right? Like you are providing a service that people desperately need, and really like touch and intimacy and sex is a fundamental need of humans as much as food or shelter or health or anything else like that. So I really appreciate that frame that you bring to it of like, I'm providing a service. Like this dude needs to come in and get off in this particular way. I can help. It'll cost him, but I can help. Or this guy needs to come in and have me pretend to be his girlfriend for an hour. I can do that.
That's exactly. I am a sexual plumber, right? It's I unclog people's pipes, right? If you don't unclog that pipe, you are gonna get flooded, right? And when you get flooded, there will be damage and destruction like you won't believe. That when you get flooded, that's when you see men start pricking needles into girls.
Right.
That's when you see men taking advantage of women, right? I'm not saying that I'm the sole thing that's stopping this person from doing such a thing, right? But I'm saying that sexual tension and sexual buildup and sexual frustration is one hell of a thing. It is one hell of a thing, especially in the context of a male. Trust me, I know this. I have the same works as a male. I understand.
Girl, let me tell you something. I was supposed to be in Seattle getting dick down right now, and I'm not, thanks to American Airlines. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Sexual frustration is real. I cannot wait until my 2 p.m. flight. Sorry, chat. We're a little graphic over here when it comes to dirty talk.
I'm just glad my boys in AA are still giving you the service that you don't deserve. I used to work for American Airlines. So
oh shit! Yeah, no, it was a disaster yesterday.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh I know.
Frederic,
that's why I don't work for American Airlines no more.
Nice.
Does American Airlines, Frederic, have a section for unclogging people's pipes? For people who have been unduly cock blocked.
Right.
I can only tell you about like the sex work stuff from my end of the world, which is like sex tourism guys that travel and the Marine Corps and what they did, strip clubs and other stuff, massage parlors and everything else. So I've been on that side of the fence. I was the guy that needed to, his pipes unclogged. So I've been there.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's more guys do it than that would ever admit, right? It's one of those kind of, on the heteronormative side of the fence for dudes, it's one of those things. It's one of those, I'd never pay for it, said, the guy who pays for it, or yeah, and I mean it's I kind of I understand it more sort of now in the sense of, like the hard part on my side of the fence is there's no room for like, say, touch depraved, right? There's no room for intimacy.
Right.
And even as a young man, that's kind of how I saw it, where it's just like, I gotta fuck and I gotta come, and it's like something you need to eat, right? It's like, I'm hungry, I gotta eat, I'm horny, I gotta fuck. But you're missing out on other things, And so, like, I'm not saying, and again, I'm not the person that's going to say all sex should be love based or have that emotional connection. There's absolutely different forms, and so, like, the thing I always have concern about, with sex workers, for me, and I might be in the minority, is like I'm concerned that they've been trafficked, or am I like, if I were to use sex workers, would I be contributing to, like, psychological damage, or, because, like, because here's the thing is, like, people have to do that in order to survive, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's, like, because you have women that do OnlyFans, you have women like yourself, or you have, you know, uh,
You got men that do
that's
OnlyFans.
right. Yeah, there you go. Like, oh, there you go. Okay. I was like, I didn't know that. You do.
I
It's
mean,
like,
did. Yeah.
oh, okay. I'm not judging, man.
I mean, here's the
Everybody
thing.
gotta make a living,
Uh, it was fun and like I didn't make bank, but there's a market out there for big beefy bear daddies who, people like to watch whatever's going on. Uh, it was probably one of the easiest things I've ever done to make money in my life in terms of like setting up an OnlyFans, recording some sets with boyfriend, putting it up there, and yeah, and people just had money come in. So
I mean,
100%.
I think for me, man, and it's like, I mean, I'm gonna sound, at the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, like, oh man, like, I was molested when I was 5, and I didn't really unpack that until way later. Um, my molester was a woman. It was at a daycare center, and so, like, for me, I don't want to hurt nobody, right? I don't want to bring any kind of, like, that kind of trauma, because I haven't been through it. I don't
Yeah.
want to go. I don't want anybody to go through that. You
yeah,
know, and
Brendan,
then
I love you, man, because you're so brave to be vulnerable. And I think we've identified this with each other before. Me too. When I was 8, I was molested, and I wonder if that response of not wanting to hurt anybody is really springs from that, because it does for me too, right? That idea of like, I just don't ever want to hurt anybody in the way that I got hurt.
yeah, and yeah, and the hard part for me to admit, and I'll just, because I say it anyway when I date people. So when I was younger, I dated a woman, and she accidentally gave me herpes, right? And so I don't, I can't, I feel like I can't use sex workers because of the danger, like in that way, because of the danger, even with the con, like, there's a danger of, you know, spreading it, right? Even though it's remote, it's this, it's that, but it's like, because now it's like, once I that happened to me, besides having to deal with the shame associated with it, which that took a lot of years, to kind of, get over. Um, I date people, it's like I got to disclose that,
Yeah.
So I can't, I feel like it's like I can't really have one night stands, because it's just like, if it were to happen and gets, like, you know what I mean, you got to go, oh, hey, by the way, here's a disclaimer for your info. Um, so it's just like,
I think.
yeah, that, I mean,
Sorry. Go ahead. I
no, no, no.
apologize. It
It
was
just,
lagging a
it's,
bit.
no, it's like that part of, and I think that's probably why I'm cagey about these kind of things, or I'm kind of, is because, like, it's just like, man, it's hard to talk about, right? It's hard,
Yeah.
and I hate, and it's a big reason I don't date, because it's like, you know, I've never really had somebody have a bad reaction to it. It was like, oh, that's, I think one person, and that was about it. But it's, even now, it's hard to talk about, you know, and it's just, and so, it's kind of like that. I've had to almost, in some ways, carterize that part of myself, in order to save myself. Where it's just like, nah, bro, that's you got to focus, and it's been hard, man. It's just like it feels like a part of my humanity is missing, and I'm still wrestling with it and trying to unpack it, and again, that's probably why I don't talk as easily about this. It's not any sort of like puritanical leftovers or any of that stuff. It's just it's shame associated with it, man. It's just like, well, damn,
Yeah.
because I go to extremes with everything, unfortunately. It's just like, if there's even a chance, like I can't do it. It's like, so I gotta, I
My
can't.
brother, I get it, and I thank you for sharing and for being vulnerable. And like, fuck, man, you are loved. There are so many people who love you and care about you, and
Thanks,
I
man.
want you to know that. So Wendy had a suggestion in the chat about something you could take. So I've got a gay doctor who is super open about everything.
1
I
second,
finished
guys. I just got to get a parcel.
yeah.
1 second.
She got to go get a package.
But
Um,
even the way she says parcel just sounds so dignified.
right. I know. Anything she says sounds beautiful. So I go to a gay doctor. I've talked to him openly about herpes and STDs. I'm on prep for HIV prevention. I know that there's you could acyclovir and things that you can do that kind of help with outbreaks and whatnot. But I want you to know that, man, you're loved, and this is a thing that you deserve to have access to the sexual part of your life.
Yes, of course.
And I think you're so conscientious already about taking care and being honest with partners, like that. I think that's what it takes. You can do that.
Exactly. And I feel, and just to add something into that, you'd be surprised, Frederic, that when I tell you that I would say a good 40%, 50, maybe even half of my clients have that kind of shame and that feeling attached to them, and I don't think, in all honesty, like, there you have absolutely anything to be ashamed of. I'm not downplaying what you're saying.
No, I know you're not.
I think that you deserve, like any other human being, in this life, to have unashamed access to that part of who you are without that kind of feeling of shame. And I understand we experiences and things form into that perspective that we've had, but I think that, like, there is something quite profound about how comfortable or how confidently you are saying this, and being open about it. And I think that's like a good way of progressing and overcoming that kind of feeling that you have. And I think that, like, talking about it and being open about it, you mentioned something earlier about there's an absence of touch in sex work,
Mhm.
right? It's in some senses that's true. Do you know I have people who come to me who I don't even have sex with.
Yeah.
It's holding, and it's talking, and it's unpacking, and then they unpack what they have to say. Um, and I mean, it's not me saying you should go see a sex worker and start talking about your problems. It's me saying that when you find the right person you feel comfortable opening up with, that shame will slowly start dissipating, and you will find yourself, and I promise, you'll find yourself in a much different position and with a much different outlook once you find that person who accepts what you have and accepts who you are.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like in my head, I've got so many things I want to say running around, and I'm translating it at such a fast pace that I'm trying to. What I'm trying to say is, once you meet somebody, you'll feel that shame dissipate.
You're right. I wanted to say this. I read your piece about the real heartfelt one you wrote about your boyfriend, and where you lied about being a sex worker, right? And the shame you felt with that, and how that all kind of erupted. And what I wanted to say to you in that was that I've gone through similar things about, obviously, this what I just shared, and other things in my life that I've done, and the hard part for me is allowing myself grace, right? Is allowing myself grace and to be able to forgive myself, right? And so the thing is, you look put it in context, man, where it's like you may have been dishonest, but there was a reason behind it. It wasn't malicious, right? And when we're scared or when we're upset, we lash out. I mean, I've done it. I've done it to people I've loved. I've done it to friends. I've done it to, like, I mean, I wasn't a good husband as far as like, I got a divorce, and one I initiated. And that wasn't because I mean, I didn't beat her or I didn't do any of that, but it was like, I was struggling with complex PTSD, and I was struggling with depression and anxiety. And I wasn't a good husband because I wasn't there for her emotionally. And I'll carry that throughout my life. I've gotten better, and I've been able to contextualize and forgive myself, and I've owned it. But I guess what I wanted to say to you is like, if you still feel any kind of thing from that, where yeah, you don't need to carry that, girl. You don't need to carry that. You know what I mean? It's like it was what it happened, and you're better now, and you're doing better. And so it's just that's all we can do. You know what I mean? So I really hope, the way you ended your piece was really powerful. I sincerely hope you don't you like you get through that and you don't feel that way about yourself, because you're needed here, and you're valued. You know what I mean?
Thank you. That's very, it's very nice of you to say, and I live in in a world within myself where I think that no matter who I am, or how good of a person I am,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
how loyal I am, or how open and how loving I am, all of these factors, that will all be superseded, Frederick, by the job that I do, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good of a person I am. Once somebody realizes that I'm a sex worker, the first thing that they think of is, one, she's going to cheat on me, because every client is me cheating on that person.
Yeah.
Secondly, is this woman has slept with so many people. How do I know that she's not sick? She doesn't have
Yeah.
HIV, or she doesn't have syphilis, or any kind of sexually transmitted disease. And I'm resigned to the fact that 9 out of 10 men will hold this view, right? I'm accepted, right? So what I'm open for in life is that one person,
Yeah.
because 9 times out of 10 is not 10, right? Well, will be one person who comes along who fully accepts my job and sees it as a job. Right? Because the most important thing that I stress to people about sex work is that there is absolutely, right, no romantic element in my job, period. I don't fall in love with clients. It has happened like once by accident, and I learned a very big lesson from it. But it's so detached, um, emotionally and romantically, that barring the physical act of sex, like I struggle to see it as cheating, because it's someone is paying me to do this. Someone pays someone to fix the computer. Nobody says nothing. Nobody calls them a slut, right? But
Right.
somebody pays me to have sex with them. it's a whole different ballgame. But my point is that one person will come along for me one day, and I'm in no rush to find that person, right? But it's like you said about your guys in the military. I have
Yeah.
a story. I have a story about that. I'd like to share
Go for
quickly.
it, please.
You'll probably know this, Frederic, but when US soldiers used to go on tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, they used to stop off in Germany before,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah, like halfway, right? And I used to work in Germany. And believe me when I tell you that I've had more Yanks than Eisenhower, right? Like, like,
Yo, go ahead.
but some of those men used to, and it used to be the same way coming back. They used to stop in Germany on the way back as well.
Yeah.
And some of those guys, they walked in to the brothel I was working in, right? And they would be just rigid. And I mean, like, if you touched them, you would break your finger just by poking them. They were so, like, I mean, there was obviously PTSD going on in a premature, like, the immediate, like, aftershock of coming back from deployment. They were so tense and they were so, um, I mean, even aggressive, like the way they spoke is very aggressive and very domineering. But they left that brothel looking like they were about 10 to 15 stone lighter, right? And it used to shock me how important it is for people to blow off steam, right? Because I genuinely believe, right, that if they didn't come to Hamburg or they didn't go to Landsberg or somewhere like that, and they didn't find a brothel in those areas, they would have gone to a bar and they would have trashed that place to high fucking heaven. They would have smashed everything and everyone in there. And I feel like genuinely that we did them a service. But my story is this: is that there was this one guy came in, and I don't know what he did in the army, but like he was with his friends, and he seemed like a pretty big deal, right? He seemed like he was. I mean, if Rambo had had a haircut and was about 10 stone bigger, that would have been him, and he was just this like really scary looking guy. He had a scar going across his face, just like if you think of a really hard ass soldier, like
Yeah.
the stereotype of a hard ass soldier, that was him, right? And he came in, right, and he had sex with me, and then he just started crying.
Yeah.
He just started crying, and I mean, really crying. And he cried for about 10 minutes, and I didn't say nothing to him. I asked him if he was okay. He just like kind of like went like that to me, like didn't hit me, but just told me to leave him alone. He cried for about 10 minutes, and then he walked out of that room, and it was like nothing had ever happened. And he came out with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And like, I realized at that point in time that the sex work was not only a way of unleashing sexual tension, but it also unleashes emotional tension, because you don't have to see that woman again.
Yeah.
You can be vulnerable with that person. That woman's not going to say anything to anybody except me telling a crowd of 135 people. But
Right.
but like, my point is that it goes back to me saying that it's an essential service, because I genuinely believe it is.
It
And I
is.
think if people saw that and people understood the nuances of it, they would have a much better view of sex workers than they do, right? Because we're not lazy. We're like far from lazy. We're not stupid. I don't know a sex worker in Amsterdam that isn't bilingual. Like,
Yeah.
like there's just such a stigma attached to us. And I wish, like, my whole point of, I've started to write about sex work a lot more when I kind of restrained myself from writing about it. And the reason I've write about it is because I want people to see that, like, we are like a very important part of society, and that we are almost therapy for people. I like
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll back that up for you. Like I'll kind of give you like what it is for being a heteronormative guy and who's steeped in like traditional masculinity, where I've tried to cut out the toxic stuff. You know, like so. First of all, like my dad, one of the things he used to always tell me is like, you never disrespect anybody's profession. Everybody's trying to make a living, right? You know, or he'd southern it up as like, man, even Jesus hung out with prostitutes. Don't disrespect nobody how they work, right? You know, and so that's kind of how I live. Like it's really about your profession is what you do, and then that could be separate from who you are, right? The other part, I mean, like for a lot of things with being a man, is just you carry it because there's no other choice, right? It's like like my mom's been going through some things recently, and like and I'm just like hey, like we got to make this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And, somebody rocked me as like, man, like you're not even phased by this. Like that's great. I'm like, it's just it's a leadership decision. It's just got to be done, you know. But all that stuff builds up, right? All that, touch deprived thing, you're not touch deprived or you're intimacy deprived or you're constantly having to check your emotions so you can make clear-headed decisions, especially if you're in leadership or partnership or any of this stuff, right? Or trying to make the morally right call, or it all builds up. And so when you get to finally be with a woman like physically, right? You know, there's a soft like just the tactile, right? Besides the touch, there's a softness there. There's, a touch intimacy there. And then you almost kind of like for that little brief time get to laser focus in. All these other concerns that you have that you're carrying, just they get pushed away. And you're able to just be solely focused on the now, right? Just right here, right now. You're not worried. You're not worried about 14 steps down the road or this or that or moving this here and da 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 da. And when you finally get that powerful physical release, right? It is like a way. You get that sort of euphoric feeling just for a little while longer, right? And that can uncork things that have needed to come out. Like so, you got a soldier who, in every facet of his life, cannot let any of that out.
Right.
Because it can get people killed or it can get him killed or, like the military culture is just absolutely not going to let you do that. But you can do it there and you get 10 and you got your 10 minutes and that's it. And then you got to go back to your life, you know? And so when you say, yeah, you absolutely do provide a service for that. You provide a space for that in a lot of like masculine places that don't allow that. That like I can vent to my friends or I can, we can talk about it, but it is not going to be in the same way that women might do it, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that it is what it is. Right. And so that's how I carry through in life. And so the fact that y'all exist, even though what I hate is like, you provide a necessary service like a plumber, but you're not respected, even though everybody and their mom needs it, or should say their dad. Everybody and their dad.
I mean, moms probably need it too. I mean,
like,
listen, I just want to interject and kind of say
Let's
again. I
do
think
it.
I've said this to you before. I I love you because you have this unbelievable ability to find joy and positivity in everything, right? And I think what comes through so clearly in reading your stuff and in what you said just now, was you're looking for ways to change minds and hearts, and you're looking for ways to advocate for yourself and for other sex workers and for other trans women. And I just think that's so fucking remarkable that you are so strong and powerful that you can kind of process the shit that society gives you and turn it into love and care and heart. And I just, God, listening to the two of you talk, I'm glad we're friends. I'm glad that I know you, both of you. You both inspire me so much and so deeply. I'm not wrapping up. I just had to say that because I feel like I've been bottling that in for like the last 5 minutes.
It's all good, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's Morgan said is like she wished there were alternatives to women not being viewed primarily as objects. And so I think that objectification takes many different forms, right? And that could be with anybody, any worker, with anybody in society. You know, I think it's women especially, right? Especially from men like, heteronormative guys who are just like, you know, the switch you need to make in your mind, at least as a man, with a woman, you have to view them like I got philosophical about it when I had my awakening. Was like you got to view them as an end in and of themselves, not as a means just as a means to satisfy your lust, right? So the tough part is even with as a sex, like you're going to visit a sex worker primarily to satisfy that lust. You got to remember, man, this is a human being too, worthy of dignity, respect. You can't just like, oh, because I'm paying you, I get to treat you like any way I want. Well, man, you wouldn't do that if you were going to order a latte. But again, you have but there are people that do that. There are people that act like an asshole, you know, to the server at the restaurant or, to the car mechanic or whatever, right? And you need to take a second to just recognize the humanity in that person that's giving you that service. You know what I mean? And
I
that's
do know. I do. Sorry to interrupt
no,
you.
you're good. You're good.
I do know what you mean, but the thing is, that my job is as such is that I'm literally standing in the window, right?
Yeah.
I am an item in the window. But here's the thing, right? Is that when you step through that threshold, everything that happens in that threshold is down to me allowing it to happen, right? I am in 100% control, right? And not only am I in control, I'm profiting from all of it, right? It's like I pay taxes, whatever, but like I profit from that situation, and I think it's incredibly powerful. And this is why I like the window concept so much. It's because it turns objectification into money for women, right? No one else is taking money off you apart from the state and apart from the people you rent the room from, right? So I think why I have so much, in some senses, begrudging admiration for Amsterdam is because it was the first place in the world to ever have this concept. It was the first place in the world to say prostitution happens, right? We can't control it, right? We can't control. We haven't got a handle on it. So what they did is they said, fine, right? We'll legalize sex work, but we'll do it in such a way that we can regulate it. We can confine it to certain areas and private house. It's a brothel in the Netherlands. It's called a private house. Yeah, it's like a private house. That's what that means, right?
Yeah.
And we can regulate these areas, right? And we know going into that, like where we're standing in a window, that we are, to some people, no more of a person than a candy bar is on a shelf, right? So you do have that rank objectification, and I mean it is pure objectification, right? I mean, you struggle to see anywhere in the world something that is so obviously objectification.
Right.
You'll struggle to see it, like a
Yeah.
human being standing in the window that you will then pay to use for sexual services, right? And I understand that. But like I said, the turning point of that is that the fact that it actually puts money in our pockets, right? And depending on how you feel about being objectified, right? Is it, yeah, like it's horrible, right? I don't want to be objectified. I especially don't want to be objectified as a trans woman. But I'm thinking, I can live in Portugal because I do this, right? I can travel back and forth. I can travel around Europe. I'm gonna buy a van that I will drive around in and live in because I do this job, right? Whatever anybody else thinks of me behind that window, right? In the long run, is, yeah, I want to change people's mind, and I want
Sure.
to say that actually no, we are good people or whatever. Whatever things people think about me as they walk past the window is none of my fucking business, right? And their views on it is none of my business. But what I want to stress to people is that no one has ever forced me to do that.
Yeah.
No one has ever forced me to objectify myself. I have full and 100% autonomy over everything I do in my job. If I don't want to do something, there's no amount of money in the world that will make me do it, right? It's as simple as that. So, like, my thing is with feminism, man, especially feminism that on Substack I've experienced it, like sex worker exclusionary feminism. They'll say things like, "Oh, you're just serving men. You're just serving men." You not don't understand the concept here, because men are the ones who are losing from this, right? Because they're in a sense they're paying to support women. That misogyny is done a complete 180.
No.
And it's come into our hands. Yeah. So it's like, I have no problem in that respect being objectified, because it benefits me greatly to be objectified. And in this day and age, and this world we live in, where it's harder and harder and harder to make a living no matter where you are in the world, like, yeah, I have zero problem with being objectified. Absolutely none. But, and
As interesting, because so the actual, like, so the paid experience I had with sex workers was actually in Amsterdam, and the reason I
you
had
paid.
it was, yeah,
You
well,
paid.
oh yeah, I paid. Well,
Is
because
that why you know me so well?
I knew he's gonna do it. I knew he was gonna do it. No, I was like, but the woman I was dating at the time, we worked in aviation, and eventually, like, she first started asking me to have a threesome, right? Which I didn't ask her. I was like, okay, where's this coming from? And really what it was she was bisexual, right? She'd never been with a woman, right? And she's like, well, I brought this up to other men and they freak out, like they get upset. And I'm like, no, I mean, if you want to go get a woman, we'll go get a woman. Do you want to do it yourself? That's fine. Go do your thing now. If you got a kink and you want to satisfy it. So she did the research. She's like, okay, I'll be comfortable if we go to Amsterdam because prostitution is legal and, da 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 da. And so, like, so she took me to, a spot in Amsterdam. She set it all up, got there, and decided she wanted to have two women, right? Wanted me to watch.
Because?
And then, so, like, I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, but you're going to pay for it. I was like, okay. I mean, it's your trip, baby. We'll do what we got to do, So we had fun. I mean, but like, that was the thing, is like, it wasn't for me. Like, she wanted to have, she'd never had sex with a woman, and that's where she felt safe doing it. And so, like I said, she planned the trip out. She picked the spot. She picked the girls, or, women, like all that, and yeah, I mean, so I was just like, cool, but but every guy she dated that brought that up got furious with her, right? That she liked women, You know, it's just like, because again, it was that fear of like, oh, so you gonna leave me? I'm just like, she said, well, why aren't you upset by that? I was like, I ain't got that equipment. That's what you like. There's nothing I can do. You know, I mean,
You'd be so surprised. You'd be so surprised how many messages, even on Substack, I get of women asking like whether it's okay for women to come to the red light district and visit. It's unbelievable. In fact, I think I've had more sexual messages from women on Substack than I have from men. Like it's it's massive. Like it shocks me sometimes. It shouldn't shock me anymore. And I don't know even really understand why I am shocked. But like it's like yeah, me and my husband are going to Amsterdam such and such date. Like, would you be available to meet for a coffee so we can talk about having a threesome? And I'm like, you know, I'm trans, right? And they're like, yeah, I know. I've always wanted to have sex with a trans woman, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then like it gets to like a week before and they're like, oh, my husband doesn't want to do it now. I'm like, okay.
man,
All right.
we got, this was back before Airbnb was a thing. I think it was called like something turnkey or whatever, and it was proto Airbnb. We got an apartment that was above the flower market, so we could see like the gate. You know, so we're in the old town. You know, which I thought was dope because it's like everything in Amsterdam's like a spoke.
You want to know where I'm sitting? You want to know where I'm sitting now, Frederic?
Is that where you're at? Are you at Flower?
Bloemenmarkt.
Oh, okay.
Bloemenmarkt. Yeah,
Dig it.
I'm sitting like 5 minutes away from there.
Yeah,
So I
because
get
like
the lived experience.
yeah, it was dope because we could open the window and they had all the flower. They still had all the like all the stuff, and there's canals, and like so she picked that, man. And I'm telling you, it's like I got drugged to the red light district by my girlfriend at the time, right? So I was being drugged everywhere, but then when we come back, it made her so randy, man. Like I mean, she was on me like, you know, white on rice, and so I benefited from it. So I'm like, I'll subsidize this trip. I mean, you know, I'm having a
You
good time.
I gotta say that there have been times in various relationships where like my partner and I have opened things up and kind of granted permission, and it always only makes the sex hotter afterwards. Like, yeah, I have a real dilemma here that I got to tell you about. We're almost at the top of the hour. I'm supposed to go get on a plane, but we're having the coolest conversation with the coolest people. I'm not sure if I'd leave this chat if you guys continue talking or what, but
I gotta go check on some dogs. Like,
Yeah,
I gotta
I
get
got
to
like
my base.
10
But we
minutes.
can do
I
it
got like
again.
10 minutes.
We can put a pin in it.
we
And then
can and should do it
we'll
again.
visit.
Honestly, talking to the both of you on this topic has been absolutely incredible. And Füsun, I know it wasn't 100% exactly maybe what we were going to talk about, but I felt like thank you both for being so real and authentic and vulnerable and amazing fucking people.
I think it might. Yeah, no, thank you both as well. It's been a great pleasure. Yeah, like it might be worth mentioning that we are taking a few weeks off.
Yes, we should
Yeah.
we should tell the people that. So you've got a big trip coming up, Füsun, and
Yeah.
we're gonna not do dirty talk for a couple of weeks while you're on your big journey. So probably about a month, I think.
Yeah,
Dig
something
it.
around that time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dig it. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you both, man. You know, like
My
pleasure.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
100%. Yeah. Safe trip, Lawrence, and safe trip to you, Füsun. And then, yeah, next time, hit me up. We'll get it done.
Sounds
Yeah.
amazing. All
Have
right,
a-
my friends.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Safe flight.
Bye bye.
Love you. Bye. Mwah.
Bye.